I'm on the iconic Ironmonger Street in Stamford now, and it's, as you can see, a very beautiful street. And at the bottom, we've got the church of St. Michael the Greater. Well, it actually isn't a church these days, it's a shopping centre. Let's go and take a closer look, eh? And here we are at the base of the church where the shops are, particularly useful if you want to get your eyes tested. So when did it stop functioning as a church? Well, St. Michael's actually closed effectively in the 1960s. Why? Well, because nobody was coming anymore, to be honest. People had stopped going to church in huge numbers, and the decision was made to deconsecrate the church. And then in the 1980s, new ideas were expressed for it to become a shopping centre, which is what you see today. Well, we're here in the graveyard of St. Michael's Church, and underneath where I'm standing, you might find the bones of the last lady to be hung in Stamford. Her name was Cassandra King. She was hung in 1704. What was her crime? Well, she was accused of taking an apple from a kitchen in the nearby village of Wothorpe. And it's reckoned that was the other girls, the other maids in the kitchen, jealous of Cassandra's beauty, all pointed to her. It was her, sir. Hang her high, because the apple was taken by Cassandra. St. Michael's Church, I think, is beautiful from all angles, but particularly this aspect. Can you see the two little details on the windows, particularly that dog, which looks a bit like a greyhound to me, looking down towards the floor? I'm standing now in front of the King's Head, probably Stamford's most famous, iconic pub. Been a pub here since 1675, but it wasn't always a public house. In fact, it was the vicarage for St. Michael's Church for many hundreds of years before that. And testimony to the religious aspect of the pub, if you like, we have the highest headstone, we understand, in all of England. We've come to the east side of the church now, and I particularly like the details. We've got figures here and here. It's those little details that give the church, I think, a lot of charm. But contrast that with the way the whole church was dealt with in the 1960s to the 1980s, because the crypts were all filled with concrete. So that denied us a way of exploring some more of the history of the church. We're now on the High Street, which was the Viking part of the settlement of Stamford. And like I said before, you can't go very far without seeing the next church. Now, our next church in line to discuss is St. John the Baptist at the bottom end of the High Street. Here we are in the beautiful little church of St. John the Baptist, which is right in the centre of Stamford. You'll also notice that I've had a quick change of clothes because the weather's changed. It started to rain and I needed to keep warm. So there's been a church here since 1146 with modern introductions really from 1451. So a long, long history within Stamford itself. There are many salient features about St. John the Baptist Church here. But the most startling aspect of the church, I think, and a lot of people think, are the wooden angels carved into the roof. You'll see the angels down the length of the nave, with their wings outspread, in flight, if you like, and some angels on the sides of the church who are flying, if you like, vertically. It really is a fantastic feature of this church and some of the churches around Lincolnshire as well. The angel roofs were particularly prevalent in this region. The late, great Sir Malcolm Sargent, Flash Harry as he is known, was born in Kent, but he lived most of his life in Stamford. And in fact, he played the organ behind me at the age of 8, 9, and 10, entertaining, if you like, the parishioners on a Sunday. So Sir Malcolm's father had a lot to do with restoring the organ in the church, which goes back to 1870. And Sir Malcolm's prowess on the organ drew the attention of people in London who brought him down to do more musical work, more traditional musical work. And of course, Sir Malcolm, famous for his work at the last night of the Proms, for example. You would have seen him conducting the orchestras in front of him. He's buried here in Stamford from 1967, along with the rest of his family. A good time to come to the church, well, there's never a bad time to come to the church, is at the festive season when, during the Christmas time, we have trees here, Christmas trees, donated by local business. And they're decorated by those businesses, and you'll find them on the edge of the pews all the way down the aisles of the church. It really is a fantastic sight. A great place to bring your children as well, because it helps celebrate the magic of Christmas, really. Now then, I gave you a little bit of homework, didn't I, very recently? And it was to be able to research, and I hope you've all been Googling and reading your history books, who might have been the monarch at the time of the foundation of Brown's Hospital in 1483. Well, this is the answer. It should be Richard III, because he was the King of England at the time. However, he was killed in battle, if you remember, at the Battle of Bosworth Field in 1485. And it's probably likely that the monarch there is Henry VII, the first Tudor king, because you see, Richard III was reviled, particularly by Shakespeare, and that might not have been a good statue to have in the church. Many churches today are battling for survival in many ways, because they need money, they need donations from us to maintain the fabric of the church, really. And every church really needs thousands of pounds each year just to maintain what we have to look at. So when you come to a church like St. John's, don't forget to donate.